Hey everybody and welcome back. Today is January 6th, 2019. The topic of this video is going to be a shooting that occurred in Torrance, California, late in the night on January 4th of this year. A shooting supposedly went down in a bowling alley late Friday, leaving 3 people dead and 4 others wounded. In this video, we're going to talk about the mainstream media and the ancient language of Gematria, which is the practice of coding numbers into words. This practice appears to be responsible for coding the events that we see in our mainstream media. And this practice is very simple. We start with the alphabetic order in the top left called English Ordinal. This is the most basic cipher, each letter numbered 1 through 26 relative to its position in the alphabetic order. We also have the reduction method, which uses the rules of numerology to reduce each double-digit number to a single digit. Both of these methods can also be reversed for complementary ciphers called reverse ordinal and reverse full reduction. So we're going to take a look at how these are used. In addition to these smaller base ciphers, there are also 2 other significant ciphers that I teach on this channel in all of my videos. These 2 methods are structured more closely to the ancient Hebrew Gematria and Greek isopsephy charts, the languages in which this Gematria practice began. The Jewish cipher on the right is based on the Latin alphabetic order, and that's where we're actually going to begin in this video. So the first major, we're going to call this a false flag shooting. Of course, I can only run the numbers and tell you what the patterns are, and you can judge for yourself what's really happening with our mainstream news. In this Jewish Gematria cipher, California has a numeric value of 219. And of course, this is the first major shooting of 2019. Not only that, but when you run the numbers on the dates on which states were established, this language of Gematria is used in accordance with dates on the calendar. And we find that California incorporated into the Union on September 9th of 1850. Notice how in December of this past year, they turned 2019 months old, and here we are in the first month of 2019. But really, where this practice of Gematria shows is when you look at the city that this shooting occurred in. We're talking about the city of Torrance, California. Torrance, using the standard alphabetic order, A is 1, B is 2, Z is 26. Torrance has a numerical value of 94. If you reverse the alphabetic order, where Z is 1, Y is 2, and A is 26, the numbers in Torrance sum to 122. And if you measure from the date written 9/4, like how Torrance equals 94, to the date of the shooting, you find it was exactly 122 days. And again, Torrance equals 94 and 122 in Gematria. So on this channel, if you go back, particularly on my more recent Murder by Numbers videos, you will find that the ordinal Gematria of the names can be converted to dates in which, when you measure from their death to that date, you find significant numbers. And this is absolutely the case with the shooting here in Torrance, which occurred 122 days after the date 9/4. But there's more to this. When you look up the city of Torrance itself, you will find that it was incorporated on May 12th, 1921. And what sticks out about the measurement here, 5/12/1921? Notice how Torrance had been incorporated for exactly 35,666 days. Of course, 666, the number of the beast in the book of Revelation, and a number commonly attributed by the Kabbalistic Freemasonic cult that is running the United States of America and our mainstream news networks. When we're talking about dates on the calendar, we're not just talking about date duration measurements, but also the date numerologies on which these events occur. So here we're looking at January 4th, the date of this shooting. This had what we call a full numerology of 44, 1 plus 4 plus 20 plus 19. In Gematria, Torrance, California, when abbreviated, has a numeric value of 44. And here, this story involves a shooting, which sums to 44, Of course, a shooting involves gunfire, which also has this gematria of 44. But also notice how shooting, using the standard alphabetic order, A is 1, Z is 26, we call this the big way, the word shooting equals 107. And the secondary numerology, we call this the life lesson number. 1 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1 plus 9, we get 17. And in numerology, it's important to note that zeros can be ignored. So essentially, we have a 44 and a 17 right here in the word shooting, lining up perfectly with the date. In regards to the number 17, one more interesting thing that stands out is that in this Jewish Gematria cipher, the name Jared Sidney Torrance sums to 1597, which is a Fibonacci number, in fact, the 17th Fibonacci number. So what a date for a news story to occur in that city. And this 1597 with the 17th triangular, this has been very important in recent shootings. Think back on the Parkland school shooting, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. In that shooting, we're told that 17 people were killed. And isn't it interesting that in this same cipher, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, or Marjorie Stoneman anyway, equals 1597 in Jewish Gematria, and 17 students killed in that shooting. So when we see these events in the news, we're not just looking at the dates on which the state it occurred in was established, but we're also looking at local politicians. And in this case, the event occurring in California, we're looking at politician Jerry Brown, who was both the 34th and 39th governor of California. One of the primary ritual hoax codes that we commonly come across is the number 33, and this makes a lot of sense. We were talking about how Freemasonry runs the news media here in this country. The word masonry equals 33 in the reduction method, and the highest known degree of Freemasonry happens to be the 33rd. Well, this event occurred at a bowling alley, and notice how bowling alley equals 137 alphabetic order. 137 just so happens to be the 33rd prime number. And if we measure to the governor's birthday, we find it was 3 months and 3 days before his next birthday. Also, Torrance, California, if you look up the coordinates, you will find that Torrance sits on the 33rd parallel. 33, a number of police in full reduction. Masonry is based in secrecy, Freemasonry and the police closely tied together. In fact, the term false flag also with a gematria value of 33. But here's what else is interesting. Not just do you measure to the governor's birthday, but you also look at the date on which they took office. Jerry Brown assumed his role as governor for the second time on January 3rd of 2011. And if you measure from that date to the date of the shooting, you get 8 years in 1 day. And this shooting occurred 3 months and 3 days before his 81st birthday. Think about how the word ritual sums to 81 in the alphabetic and reverse alphabetic orders. Next, let's look at the location of the shooting, Gable House Bowl. In the alphabetic order, we find this sums to 147, another number that's tied into Freemasonry. Of course, the compass on the Masonic emblem set to 47 degrees. Freemason in the reverse order equals 147, as does the word conspiracy, 147. And it tends to be numerical knowledge, both of those words summing to 147, that's used to carry these operations out. Now, in the reduction method, Gable House Bowl equals 57. This is significant because it's the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry that's running our news. And both Scottish Rite and the word conspiracy sum to 57 in the reduction methods. Earlier, we touched on how the number 33 is significant. And the number 13, also equally significant. There are two significant ciphers that take capital letters into account. The first method being Francis Bacon, which adds 26 for each capital letter. Another method I call Frank Baconus, which alternates capital and small letters. And notice how in these methods, the capital letter G has a value of 33 and 13. The G being on the center of the Freemasonic compass, the Freemasonic emblem, of course, with the capital G. People who are watching my videos, if you're in this corner of YouTube, you're probably quite familiar with this logo by now. So when we're talking about the number 13, think about Gable House Bowl in Jewish Gematria. So in addition to these two most significant ciphers that we already touched on, in Jewish Gematria we get a value of 1360. And of course this sticks out because 13 is the 6th prime number. Of course, number properties at gematrinator.com, my website, all of this is right there listed for you. Now, when you write out the number 13, you get the value 117. This shooting occurred exactly 117 days after California's date of establishment, September 9th. What also sticks out is that if you measure to the date written 18/2, you get 10 months and 17 days, another 117 number sequence. And why would we measure to the date 18/2? Well, look at how in Gematria both California equals 182, Torrance, California equals 182 in the alphabetic order. So when you see an alignment like this, you kind of have to measure to the date and see if there's anything there. And absolutely, it lines up with the date that California was established and the number 13, which is the primary ritual/hoax code. And in addition to this story about the bowling alley, I'm going to cover one more news story in this video, just to give you an example of how the news is continuing to do this. And this isn't just for news stories that occur in the United States, but also internationally as well. Over the weekend, we also got this story about 5 teens dying in Poland after an escape room caught fire. So this is a very tragic story, and this is what the news likes to do. They like to give us tragic stories that put us in a lower vibrational state, make us more fearful about the world we live in, thus making us better consumers, more obedient citizens. But anyway, let's just show you exactly how this works here. First of all, this is a story about a fire, and usually the numbers of fire are coded in. In reduction, fire equals 29. This fire is said to have occurred in Koszalin, Poland. If I can type this out, you'll find that Koszalin, Poland equals 209 in the reverse order, much like the number 29. The city Koszalin itself sums to 44 and 107. This fire occurred on the same date as the shooting in Torrance, California. Remember how shooting equals 44 and 107? Well, Koszalin also has gematria of 44 and 107. This method here, the single reduction, where the only difference is the letter S. Now, this event occurred in Poland. And when you look at the date of Poland's Independence Day, you find it was November 11th. So when we're looking at stories that take place in certain states, you're measuring to the date that that state was established and the governor's birthday. Since this story took place internationally, we're looking at that nation's Independence Day. Very consistent with this in my work. So if you measure from November 11th to the date of this fire, you'll find it was 10 months and 7 days. Again, Koszalin equals 107 in ordinal gematria. And we're being told that it was 5 girls who died in this fire. Notice how 5 girls also sums to 107. Next, we're going to look once more at the 13 and 33 hoax codes that remain to be so prevalent in these stories. In the alphabetic order, Kozel in Poland equals 169. Of course, this number itself does not have 13 or 33 in it, but if you check out the properties of 169, it becomes very clear. This is 13 squared. So right off the bat, one of those ritual codes popping up. And then what about the number 33? In Gematria, 33 equals 156, and 66 the small way. That would be the reduction method. The event we're talking about here is an escape room blaze, as it was quoted on CNN. This sums to 156 and 66, just like 33. But what really stands out about this is the Jewish gematria of 33. See how it sums to 895 in Jewish gematria? This is a number drawn from the Bible. Jesus was crucified at the age of 33, this being a ritual human sacrifice. The disciple that led Jesus to the sacrifice was Judas, and his name also has this 895 value. So isn't it interesting that Kozel in Poland, also in Jewish gematria, sums to 895? As far as why we're being told that 5 girls died in this blaze, notice how Kozelin equals 720 in Jewish gematria. The word 5 equals 720 in that same method. And that's in addition to the alignment with 5 girls equaling the same as Kozelin, also a number found in the measurement to Poland's next Independence Day. So this certainly seems to be the code that the mainstream media is operating by. It's my belief that they are manufacturing stories by the numbers, by this code. And it's possible that this is not even real at all. Of course, me from my house, I can't tell you this on my own, but we know something's up with the news media, and to what length is it going? That is the question that remains. So thanks to everybody who popped in on the live stream. Please share, like, subscribe. As I've said before, this is definitely censored content. And my channel, while it's still being allowed on YouTube, has been suppressed. I used to do videos on recent celebrity deaths, and they would get thousands of views, and doesn't seem like they're popping up on anyone's searches anymore. So just want to throw that out there. All right, everybody. Peace and love. God bless. Thanks for watching. And until next time, adios.